Welcome to Awakening Heaven on Earth. Before we begin, take a moment to arrive. There is nothing you need to do, nothing you need to believe, and nowhere you need to go. Simply listen, contemplate, and notice what stirs and resonates within you. This is a shared space of reflection, presence, and remembrance. Now, let us begin. Welcome to this episode focused on belonging together, unity in communities, recommended reading. In this episode, we explore a collection of books and teachings that illuminate the sacred work of community, belonging, gathering, reciprocity, and collective healing. These readings draw from spirituality, psychology, sociology, philosophy, Indigenous wisdom, and community practice, all pointing toward one essential truth. We were never meant to walk alone. And true belonging is not created by sameness. It is created through presence. Welcome, reverence, and the courage to make room for one another. As each book is explored, you will be invited into reflection, allowing these teachings to become personal, practical, and alive within the communities you touch. Now let's begin. In the book, The Art of Gathering, by Priya Parker. This beautiful and practical book invites us to rethink what it means to gather. Priya Parker reminds us that gatherings are not made meaningful simply by bringing people into the same room. They become meaningful through intention, through thoughtful invitation, through clear purpose, through the creation of a space where people can show up more honestly, more fully, and more humanely. Through the lens of unity. This book teaches that every gathering can become sacred. A meal can become communion. A meeting can become a circle of trust. A conversation can become an altar of belonging. but only when we gather with care. Now let's enter a time of reflection. How might the spaces you create or participate in change if you approached every gathering as an opportunity to deepen belonging, honesty, and sacred connection? In the book Braiding Sweetgrass by Robin Wall Kimmerer, this profound work weaves together indigenous wisdom, botanical science, ecology, storytelling, and the sacred practice of reciprocity. Kimmerer reminds us that community is not limited to human beings. It includes the land, the waters, the plants, the animals, the ancestors, and the generations yet to come. Through the lens of unity, this book expands belonging into the entire web of life. It teaches that to belong is also to give back, to receive with gratitude, to live in relationship rather than extraction, to remember that we are not owners of the earth, but members together of a living community. Consider this. Where in your life is the sacred web of relationship asking you to practice greater gratitude, reciprocity, and care? In the book Emergent Strategy by Adrienne Marie Brown, this visionary work explores how change happens through relationship, adaptation, collective care, and small actions repeated with intention. Brown invites us to look to nature for guidance. Ecosystems do not transform through domination. They adapt, they cooperate, they respond, they evolve through relationship. Through the lens of unity, this book reminds us that communities are living systems. They grow through trust, through mutual care, through shared imagination, through the willingness to practice the future we long for in the present moment. Consider this question. What small pattern of care, cooperation, or courage? Could you practice consistently enough to help reshape the community around you? In the book, The Different Drum by M. Scott Peck, this classic work explores the nature of authentic community and the spiritual growth required to create it. Peck describes community not as a place of shallow agreement, but as a space where people learn to move beyond pretense, control, and defensiveness. Authentic community requires honesty, humility, listening, the willingness to enter the discomfort of difference without abandoning love. Through the lens of unity, this book teaches that belonging is not sentimental. It is spiritual work. It asks us to surrender the illusion that community should always be easy. And instead enter the sacred labor of becoming real together. Ponder this question. Where might you be called to move beyond surface level connection and into deeper honesty, vulnerability, and shared trust? In the book Belonging by Tokopah Turner. This lyrical and deeply soulful book explores exile, longing, homecoming, and the mystical path of belonging. Turner speaks to the ache many people carry. The feeling of being outside the circle. Unseen. Misunderstood. Or spiritually homeless. But she also reminds us that belonging is not only something we find, it is something we cultivate. Something we remember. Something we become capable of offering to others. Through the lens of unity, this book honors the sacred wound of separation and the soul's journey back into true communion. It invites us to create home not only for ourselves, but for all who have forgotten they belong. Reflect on this question for a moment. Where have you felt exiled from belonging? And how might that wound become a doorway into creating deeper welcome for others? In the book, Community, the Structure of Belonging, by Peter Block. This important work explores how communities are transformed, not primarily through systems imposed from above, but through conversations that awaken ownership, possibility, and shared responsibility. Peter Block teaches that belonging is not passive membership. It is participation. It is the willingness to become responsible for the well-being of the whole through the lens of unity. This book reminds us that community is not something others create for us. It is something we co-create together. Through invitation, through accountability, through shared story, through the courage to move from isolation into contribution. Think about this. Where are you being invited to move from being a consumer of community to becoming a co-creator of belonging? In the book, Together, by Vivek Murthy. In this deeply human and research-informed book, the former United States Surgeon General explores loneliness as one of the great health and spiritual challenges of our time. Murthy shows that human connection is not optional. It affects the body, the mind, the heart, the health of families, communities, and societies. Through the lens of unity, this book reminds us that belonging is medicine. Connection heals. Being seen heals. Having someone walk with us heals. And offering that presence to another can become a sacred act of service. Think on this for a moment. Who in your life may be quietly longing for connection? And how might you become a healing presence for them? In the book, Bowling Alone, by Robert Putnam. This influential sociological work examines the decline of civic life, social trust, and community participation in modern society. Putnam shows that when people stop gathering, serving, joining, and participating together, the fabric of community weakens through the lens of unity. This book reveals that belonging is not only personal, it is social, it is civic, it is woven through the everyday ways we show up for one another. A society becomes more whole when people rebuild trust. Participate in shared life, and remember that community requires presence. Let's reflect a moment. What small act of participation could help strengthen the fabric of belonging in your neighborhood, workplace, spiritual circle, or community? In the book, The Social Cure, by Yolanda Yetton, Catherine Haslam, and Alexander Haslam, this work explores the psychology of belonging and the powerful role social identity plays in human well-being. It shows that the groups and communities we belong to can affect our resilience, health, meaning, and sense of self. Through the lens of unity. This book affirms something spiritual traditions have long taught. We are shaped by the circles we inhabit. We heal through connection. We become stronger when we are held in meaningful relationship, but it also invites discernment. Not every group heals. Some divide, some exclude. Some make belonging conditional. Sacred community is one that expands dignity, compassion, and life. So consider this. Which communities in your life help you become more whole? And which ones may be asking for healing, renewal, or release? As these readings come together, a deeper truth begins to emerge. Belonging is not a soft idea. It is a sacred need. It is spiritual, psychological, biological, social, and deeply human. We are formed in relationship. We are wounded in relationship. And so often, we are healed in relationship. Community is not merely where we gather, it is where we remember that every soul is a sacred thread, that every voice matters, that every circle can become an altar of welcome. So before you leave this moment, pause gently. Think of the communities you belong to. Think of the communities you are called to build. Think of the person who still feels outside the circle. And ask yourself, how can I become a doorway of belonging? How can I gather together with intention? How can I listen more deeply? How can I create spaces where love can grow? You do not need to build the whole community at once. Begin with being welcoming. Begin with presence. Begin with one circle, one conversation, one act of inclusion. For when we belong together, unity takes form in the world. As we come to a close, remember that this journey continues in many expressions. This podcast is part of a family of partner podcasts. Awakening Heaven on Earth. The space between heaven and earth and Living Heaven on Earth are 3 companion podcasts exploring spiritual awakening from complementary perspectives. Awakening Heaven on Earth offers the core teachings and mystical reflections on unity, love, and conscious living. The space between creates room for dialogue, reflection, and lived conversation around those teachings. Living Heaven on Earth focuses on basic spiritual practices that help embody these insights in daily life. Together, they form a unified journey of understanding, experience, and integration, inviting listeners to remember their connection with the divine, with one another, and with the living world. You can find all of them available on the same podcast streaming platforms wherever you listen. And if music helps carry these teachings deeper into the heart, the unity Awakening Heaven on Earth album is available on all major music streaming services as a musical companion to this journey. Wherever you engage, through listening, reflection, conversation, or music, may it gently remind you you are not separate. You belong to the one life, and heaven is already unfolding within you. Until next time, walk gently, love deeply, and embody heaven on earth.